Hello there, and welcome to another exciting edition of TapCaf Transmissions. That almost rhymed. I'm Corey, joined as usual, almost always, by my co-host, Mr. Justin Eckhart's Ladder. How are you doing today?
A good 85% of the time.
It's got to be more than that.
Yeah, it's like 97%.
There are like 3 episodes that I've done with Ilkin and one that I did with Zach, and that's about it.
Yep.
So it's a really good attendance record.
I mean, it puts you squarely in the proper host position, though, because you've missed out.
Well, you always ask for the stream key for my channel, and I'm like, no. So, because if you wanted to count the like your solo reactions to like the Acolyte finale, then technically you could, but it's diluting the Eckhart's Ladder brand. So
it is. Yeah,
I don't know if that's really what you're looking for. It does, like me going on your coattails, that works. You going on mine, there's the thin little coattails.
All right, don't make it mean. Don't make it mean.
I can be mean to myself.
I guess
it's cozy over here. Remember?
I don't like it though, and it hurts. It makes me feel sad.
Okay, it's like when we make jokes about not liking each other, and then anyone who's watching is like kind of uncomfortable because they don't know if it's a joke. Okay, I get it. But tonight we have a very special topic. We have made it to the end phases of the new Jedi Order series. Tonight we're talking about Star Wars: the New Jedi Order: Force Heretic 1: Remnant. We almost accidentally talked about Force Heretic 2: Refugee, which would have been...
So the way my Kindle was organized, it had the second one first. So I read literally a third of the book, and I was like, man, they're really like jumping straight into the action. Like they're really trusting the reader to figure out what's going on. Like, I don't remember Luke meeting up with Imperials, but I guess it makes sense. I was just
you were sending me messages about like, the Empire doesn't seem to be really reacting to the fact that like they just kind of put the Empire and the Galactic Alliance. And I was thinking like, Pellaeon does kind of just put it right in front of the Moffs, but he's pretty deep in the book then. But
kind of
I was trying to, But that does mean it'll be easier for us to do book 2 sooner because you've already got a good chunk of it done.
1/3 of the way done.
So we are talking about the first book in the last trilogy of the Yuzhan Vong War before we get to 2 more standalone books. Any other Star Wars news before we jump into this, though?
Well, we've got D23 coming up. Is it tomorrow, the first day?
Let's check.
Either way, we should see something from Skeleton Crew, maybe Andor Season 2, maybe some surprises. Other than that, not a whole lot.
There was a little bit of a kerfuffle around Outlaws coverage. I don't know if you want to talk about that at all, since we were doing the whole episode last week on Outlaws.
Yeah. So the drama was not totally unfounded, I'll say. It was So, from my understanding, it started when Asmongold put out a video saying that, or he did a live stream saying that people were being paid to do Outlaws coverage, and that Ubisoft was taking videos down. And I did actually watch some other because obviously I didn't go to the event. I can only speak for what I did with Zach, and I did look at some of the videos, and they did actually sponsor some videos. Mostly, I didn't see any ones from Star Wars YouTubers that were sponsored, but there were some of like the gaming channels had sponsored videos. Now, a sponsored video is different than a preview. However, and this is where I admittedly did mess up. I wasn't like the center of it, but I tried to put out a response because I also did preview content. How preview things usually work is you sign an NDA, not about like not criticizing the game, but usually when you play the game early, there are elements that aren't finished. Like some of the menus are one of the big things that are usually broken. Menus are broken. Sometimes you'll encounter story beats like really early on. So you're not allowed to talk about that, obviously, but you're still allowed to give your full impressions of the game.
Yeah.
However, The problem arose, and this is, I think, fair criticism. Often when you go to these events, you get things. You get swag bags sometimes. Sometimes, in this case, it was Zach got to go to Disney, and ideally, I would have disclosed that, and I should have. I just didn't remember when I was recording the intro because I didn't go. I just didn't think about it. So that made some people angry. I'd say it was a very few people. Like I looked at the video today, and it still is like a 96% like ratio. So it's a pretty small controversy. But I think there are probably some things to say, kind of about how these influencer events are run. So it was a good lesson in that respect, I'd say.
Right. But yeah, so any of the stuff that like we've been to, it's not been like paid for the content. Nothing like we were never told stuff we could or couldn't say about quality, just about like don't spoil the story, at least when like the example of Jedi Survivor. Obviously neither of us went to the Outlaws event ourselves, but I'm assuming the coverage limitations were similar. I haven't seen
did
what
see
the
the
agreement
NDA
was
afterwards.
Okay.
Yeah.
But
So I'll just say the NDA for Outlaws, and technically I'm not supposed to say this. It was don't include shots of the menu, because the menu was a work in progress. So, that was it. So like Ubisoft doesn't vet the videos. If Ubisoft asked me to take my video down, I would say no, unless I had done something like include the menu. But yeah, it's definitely kind of an iffy situation. Like there have been cases where people have done paid stuff with Star Wars, like way back in 2017 for Star Wars Battlefront 2. We all went to, it was San Francisco that time. It was San Francisco, and we really just stayed in the on the EA campus the whole time. However, what they did offer, they offered this to every single Star Wars YouTuber, and everyone took it. Is aside from your preview event, they also paid money for sponsored videos. These sponsored videos were not like sponsored videos should never be impressions based, because you can't review something if you're being paid, like, and the company has editorial control. So the in that case, the sponsor videos were like to do a guide on, like, everyone was given a character. I think mine was Darth Maul, maybe, or Darth Vader. It's like do a guide on how to play the character. Yeah.
Okay.
And it's very clearly like in that video, which I think I don't know if I still have that up, because it did very, very poorly for me.
Yeah.
Like that is very clear. Like when you watch it, it's like, yeah, this video was paid for by EA. Check the game link in the description. And if you watch some of the Outlaws videos, you'll see at the bottom sponsored by Ubisoft, and then usually a link to the game or whatever.
Yeah, like it is a big problem if you are being paid to make a video and include it as an ad and you're not disclosing that. Like that's not just the ethics of being someone talking about a topic without disclosing it. That is like an actual legal problem that you can get into. So it's
extremely common as well, especially like on TikTok or on YouTube Shorts, where like I watch those sometimes, and people really fly like close to the sun.
But with that out of the way, we have Force Heretic. I always want to say it differently when doing just this title of the book. I can say Heretic, but I can't say Force Heretic properly without.
What are you trying to say? Heretic?
Heretic. I always say Force Heretic for the titles of these books for some fucking reason. I don't know. Maybe it's just because I was young when I saw it first, and maybe that's how I said it back then. And it's like,
I can read, so I don't really have that problem. But
we haven't seen much evidence of that with the podcast, so let's take it easy there.
That's
but what were your overall thoughts coming out of Force Heretic 1? Or while you think about that, I will give a brief synopsis of the plot. The book is broken into 4 sections, so we'll try to go through each of those sections individually. But in terms of its overall plot, the Yuzhan Vong War is kind of heating up. There's different pockets of the galaxy that just haven't been heard from in a while. And with the recent victory at Ebac 9 in the prior book, where the New Republic, now Galactic Alliance, is starting to get a bit more momentum after employing Akbar's strategy of kind of raiding the galaxy a little bit before getting
He's
that
not
one big
dead yet.
victory.
I thought he'd be dead by now, but he's not.
No, the next time he gets mentioned, it will be that he's dead. So it's the end for him. Sorry, spoiler alert. But yeah, so the New Republic is hoping to reestablish contact with some of the greatest hits of prior Star Wars Legends books. So
Yeah.
Han and Leia are going into the rest of the known galaxy. We get to some of the Black Fleet crisis, Yavithans and Fians and all of them.
I didn't remember the Fians. I'm
book.
going to admit, by the way, I didn't remember them. Short little freaks is just how I imagine them while reading this.
They kind of look like the Caridans, I think.
Yeah,
but they've got like double jointed legs or something. They're very strange. But yeah, so Han and Leia are going to go to the area around the Duskin League, see if they can reconnect with the Avithans and any of the species that they've lost contact with in that area. Meanwhile, Luke, Mara, and Jason and their little cadre are going to be looking for Zonamas Seacot based on Vergier's story about the living planet and see if this can in any way bring an end to the war. So they take a stop over into the Imperial Remnant and try to convince the Empire. They want to use it as a staging point to go into the unknown regions and maybe see if they can reestablish some diplomatic ties with the Empire. But they arrive in the middle of a big battle.
There's a lot of very convenient timing.
Yeah. So they help the Empire fight off the first major invasion by the Yuzhan Vong of Imperial territory.
Well, sort of. They lose Bastion.
Well, Bastion's not that important.
No. They lose Bastion. Don't worry, though. They win a battle near an asteroid.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's lots of convenient timing in this. So I did like one aspect of the book. I did like was they slowed down at the beginning and they do take the time to say, okay, maybe we've gotten a little lost in the weeds, or maybe it's been a lot of books that are just building off another. So this one kind of slows down. It splits our characters up into two groups, as you mentioned. Did you say what Han and Leia were doing? I don't.
Yeah, that they're going to try to reestablish contact with other places in the galaxy that have been cut off. The HoloNet is down.
Right. Yeah, you did.
Telephone wires have been cut.
Yeah, so they're off with Tahiri, who's having night terrors, and day terrors, and yeah, I like that part. I like splitting the characters up. We get Jag and Jaina together for the book, which is fun. And we are doing kind of we're continuing rather the greatest hits tour of the galaxy. Two genocidal alien races, our two favorites, the Avathans and the Searook, are
they're going to be in season 2 or book 2.
Yeah, I was it's funny. So in the next book you kind of meet Searook Jesus kind of. And I was like looking at the Wikipedia page because I thought I remembered like what the twist was, and I was like, did I remember it? Yes. I was like scrolling down at the bottom, and this should have been the first hint that I was wrong. And I was like reading first appearance, Force Heretic 2. And I was like, huh. They've got that wrong. If I wasn't banned from the Wikipedia, I was like, oh, maybe he appears in the next one, but he's just mentioned in this one. I was like, oh, I just got to add that in if I wasn't banned. But that should have been the first hint that I was reading the wrong book. The only way I found out is because I picked up my Kindle and it had exited the book program, and I was like, oh no.
I mean, if you hadn't figured that out, I'd probably be doing this podcast with someone else and getting back with you the next one.
Yeah. Would have been trying to read it live on air.
But for me, the way you really know you're in the right book with this is it opens up with Saba accidentally committing genocide over people.
Oh yeah.
Because the Yuzhan Vong are at Barab 1, and there's this big gobbling slave ship. Yeah,
I imagine it like a big blister, like one of those burns that have like blistered out, or not like like how a burn will like fill with like liquid and then
with the blood, it's a big pus sack.
Like a big sack of fluid.
So it's a giant ship that Saba thinks she's going to take out and score one for the home team, but it's only big because it's defenseless and filled with all the captives from her home planet that she just kills everyone. Not a great time for her.
I do like the imagery of just the bodies. She thinks they're like, what's it filled with like 6-pointed star? Oh, that's my entire race. Oops. Well, like in fairness, what else could she have done?
It's a bit weird that I don't know if the Blorash jelly or whatever on the ship and the ship itself blocks her ability to sense the people inside it.
Yeah,
But that
it
might be a
does.
first thing
It
to
says it
check.
says something about that later
Okay.
on. Yeah.
Okay, then she's absolved of all wrongdoing as far as I'm concerned.
Because when they go inside of it in the dumbest part of the book, one of them mentions it, but not her because she's been working on her force, her life sensing.
Yeah. This does put Saba off on a path of being more attuned to life, which when they're having their meetings about how they're all going to move forward and looking for the living planet, like Luke wanting to step away from the fighting, he wants to bring Saba with him. Saba thinks it's a pity party for her, but Luke also thinks that she'd be more attuned to life and more useful in finding a giant living planet. So I think it's a nice work vacation for her.
Yeah, I mean it's kind of the same with Tahiri is also coming along. She's kind of with her ex-boyfriend's parents. She constantly kind of refers them that way, but she's also feels kind of like luggage. But
Yeah, I don't know if I'd want to be like in her position. I don't know that I want to hang out with Han and Leia and Jason and Jaina all the time.
Yeah. Yeah, I did like because it's a lot of it's about her grief, and Jaina's like, man, like I feel bad for like losing what I had. She feels bad because she's like, not only did she lost it, but they were like falling in love, so she lost out on like the potential as well. Which
Yeah,
I
but
like.
to be
I like
fair,
that.
Jaina's open about Anakin being her least favorite brother.
Yeah.
So it's not even like losing a real brother. It was like losing the spare brother.
To be fair, that will come as well.
Yeah, eventually, but we get some stuff with Jason and Tahiri in the early parts of the book where Tahiri is having a lot of night terrors. Her dreams are her being chased by like
Like skibbity
Anakin and
toilet Anakin Skywalker or Anakin
yeah.
Solo.
I have fascist smiles as a note for this for some reason. I don't know what that means, but
I don't know what that
I'm
means
gonna
either.
see if I have that written down somewhere. But Jason does do some stuff in this that I think is not very cash money. Like he's more than happy to invade her mind when he thinks he's doing her a favor.
Oh yeah, that was an epic.
And it's just knowing what happens with these two in the future, maybe put that away for a moment and keep that in mind. Keep Jason's willingness to do this when he thinks he's doing the right thing for someone.
That's a good point.
As a character trait for him. That he's more before he was held back from doing this kind of stuff by thinking every action he could take would be horrible and lead to the destruction of the galaxy. But now he's been told, do what you want because your instincts are better than the rest of the galaxies because you're a superhero.
Bad things are bad, duh.
Yeah. And as someone with power, it's wrong to second guess yourself. It's wrong to consider the impact of your actions. Think about it in advance, maybe a bit, but just choose an act.
Don't be lame.
Yeah, dude. So, I mean, Vergere, some problems maybe with the philosophy that she has instilled in Jason.
Yeah, she gave Jason a permanent skill issue.
Mm-hmm. And just a lot of memory skills for him, which is nice for him.
Yeah. But yeah, that's not great. So I like the beginning of the book. Where it started to fall apart for me was when Luke got to the Imperial Remnant.
Okay.
Because I like the idea of the Remnant joining the Galactic Alliance, but the way that Pellaeon is written in this is so stupid.
Okay. I do want to point out that this is not just me laying some other stuff on top of Jason's motivations here. Tahiri calls it a betrayal as well. So it's not just my interpretation.
Oh yeah, she wakes up and she's pissed.
But yeah, we do get to the Remnant. And yeah, so I think I agree with what you're saying or what you were saying about how it's nice that they kind of step back and reset the stage a little bit with some of these new things that are coming in.
Yeah.
But I I get the feeling also with this book that these were possibly some of the most disconnected from what the rest of the group was doing,
Mm-hmm.
if you know what I mean. Where
Yep.
like the the way they're handling some of the Imperial stuff just doesn't really mesh with the way the Imperials were handled with Ethor. I actually kind of appreciate some of what they're doing with the Empire because this still seems a bit more in line with like earlier era Empire, where like we're still seeing that like most of them are kind of dick bags, and
Yeah.
Pellion's a bit of a dick bag as well, but he comes around. But what was your most off-putting Pellaeon
It's just
moment?
Pellaeon just pretends like that he's got no history with anybody ever. And like
Yeah,
he's just instantly been this kindly grandfather figure. Every time he refers to Luke or Jason, it's like, oh, my old friend, my friend. And like
my boy.
Luke is, yeah, my boy. Like Luke is constantly giving him the stupidest, most basic, like Luke's like talking down to him. He's like, just a reminder, Pellaeon, don't celebrate too hard because the Yuzhan Vong, they'll be back. And Pellaeon's like, thank you for your sage advice, Master Luke. I hope I'm not around by the time you grow to my age. You will be a terrifying tactician. Like, like, come on.
He's only like 20 years older than Luke. Like he's old, but I guess 30 or something. But he's not that much older than Luke in the world of Star Wars. They're
It's
they're
like
both adults.
I get what they're going for. Like the galaxy needs a win, and the Empire joining and like fully joining with no
Yeah.
reservations is a big win. But it's like maybe more than one book. Like maybe they could have used all three books to kind of get that together, rather than Pellaeon just
Yeah.
instantly buying in, basically.
Well, Pellion's always a strange one with that because like there does need to be someone within the Empire pushing for that unification if it's going to happen, and whether or not it should, I think, is its own topic.
Yeah.
But with Pellion, there's just like when you have to have people like Flennick that are just so opposed to it, then you need someone who's pushing equally hard in the opposite direction. Then Pellion just kind of falls into that by default,
Yeah.
and it ends up kind of papering over. Like he talks about like all the things about, we need to work together, and then he needs to be the voice of reason. So then it just turns into, okay, so why have you stuck with these people for so long? What is it you actually like about the Empire, when you know that this is the kind of leadership that it led to? When there's even moments in the book where he talks about like how he thinks back on his mistakes and not following with his gut on what he knows is right before. Like, what specifically are you talking about there? Is it talking about being part of the faction where the other most powerful political guy is trying to goad the people who are here helping you win a battle to defend your worlds by saying that you go hunting for sentient species and wear them on the weekends?
Yeah. Like that's to be now, Pillion's kind of a weird case because originally he's a very clear second in command, and he's not written in the Thrawn trilogy like a person who will like Pellion's big moment that he has on his own before Thrawn comes back is at Endor, where he basically shits the bed and orders a full retreat, which is it's fine. Um, but it's like, yeah, you weren't like joining, you know, to have risen to the point where Pellaeon was captain of a star destroyer, you know, very prominent within the Navy. Any of these guys, Moffs, whoever, you have had to been not only okay with like what the Empire was doing, but like actively fanatical, supporting it. So like the Empire was blowing planets up, dog. Like the Empire was enslaving species. The Empire was like especially when you're a star destroyer captain, it's not like the Empire is appearing to be good, but you know, they got some like, you know, there's some nasty stuff. Like they don't pay their employees like they should. Like no, like their whole thing is like they rule through an iron fist and fear. So it's like we are meant to believe that this kind grandfatherly figure was, you know, was there the whole time.
Yeah, like
Bang,
because
dude.
like we still get the context of the Empire being that with a lot of the like we get it in the Hand of Thrawn duology. We get it here with Flennick. Like in the Hand of Thrawn duology, he's talking to one of the Moffs, and they're like, "Oh yeah, those we're not going to work with those alien lovers." And Pellion's like, "Oh yeah, I know, I hate those aliens too, but what are we gonna do?" It's like he's not ever pushing against this stuff.
Yeah.
Really, he's Like that seems to be the only thing it's there for. If he cares about the whole like, oh well, this is the only way the galaxy can be stable, he knows that's not true, and he argues for why that's not true in this book by this point at least. So why didn't he just fucking pack his bags 20 years ago and say, you know what? If I only care about who's going to be able to govern the galaxy, clearly it's not the Empire. I'm going to just go on my way and not help this guy go hunting for the locals on this planet that we've established ourselves on.
Yeah. Like I think that the Thrawn duology does a little better. Like I think it's still not perfect there, where Pellaeon is clearly joining, and again he's more allying with the New Republic. Where here they're like formally joining the Galactic Alliance. He's a lot more pragmatic.
I think he's still
like,
pragmatic about it here, but he's like
I agree,
very
but
vocally pushing for it.
He's pragmatic, but the book wants you to have like. The book is also trying to morally absolve him in a way that like I don't think the Thrawn duology was. Where like in that, I mean, we all know Timothy Zahn, like he can't let a good villain be a villain. So yeah, he was trying to there as well. Like the first thing, he basically drops a slur in like the first chapter of the Empire.
Yeah, like he was not a big fan of Rook. But
No.
like they at least I think more so than in the Hand of Thrawn duology, they definitely do have at least the thoughts of like, what is he referring to when he says, I wish I'd done the right thing in the past or gone with my gut in the past. Like, so I at least there's a bit more of an acknowledgement of him thinking that way now, even if you're right, it does come across more as like, if we're not figuring out which positions of the Empire he actually had a problem with, then it is just kind of whitewashing his character as like, oh, he's this nice old, like kind of racist grandpa who's willing to work with the horse admiral sometimes when he needs to.
Yeah. No, he liked him the whole time. He was uncomfortable in the Empire.
He was just in the Empire for the economic policies. Like, what is
I'm
left
economically imperial. Socially, I'm a rebel. Economically imperial. I just think they got some good ideas.
Yeah, like he only comes off as better than the ones that are talking about literally hunting the other aliens and basically directly saying the slurs themselves.
Yeah, he still hunts them. He just doesn't talk about it in polite company.
Yeah. Well, it's so weird too, because like I think we're supposed to take Jason's response at face value when the Moff is trying to goad him about the hunting, where Jason says, I'm not going to try to push my morality onto you. It's like he's talking about fucking killing people, dude.
Yeah, it's not like he's like, yeah, I don't tip people. It's like, yeah, I actually think I can kill non-humans. Like, okay. Yeah, no, yeah, like
wow, totally. Jason's so enlightened.
You should talk to your mom about this. You should talk to Chewbacca. Oh, wait. Talk to all Chewbacca's. Oh no, they were killed in the Great Kashyyyk Slave War.
Yeah, the indentured servant that lives with your family, who your mom refers to as a walking carpet. This is where we're going.
He's got his own chair. It's fine. He's got to sleep there too. But we crack the window for the Falcon when we go on missions. It's all good.
Yeah, it is. The weirdest thing for me about it was more not weird, but the funniest part for me is like how Pellaeon's entire immediate advisory circle just immediately becomes Arian Yage, and again, really need to note the name there. Yeah. And the Skywalkers that have shown up. Like none of the other Imperials are in on this with him until he tells them later, like, I'm just leaving with the fleet, yo. It's
like, no, I'm doing this. Like,
this has to be like the third or fourth time that that card gets played in the NJO. Like Trace says he's going to do it with Wedge, to Boars.
Wedge does kind of do it.
Wedge and Garm, like Garm does it. Yeah, 100%. And then everyone kind of does it after after Coruscant, but there's a bit more of a past there because the whole government had fallen apart. There was no one to really leave from. Like, Poe wasn't a
Yeah, there's
real
no
positive
like
force.
actual legal authority at that point.
Yeah. I wonder how much time got spent on, like, immediately after getting elected, uh, having Cal rename the, like, reprint all the letterheads and stuff with Galactic Alliance. Because the
Also,
structure
like,
of it's kind of interesting.
yeah, I mean, it's also like the Empire's kind of weird at this point too because they've got like 9 ships. It seems like.
Yeah, it's a bit of a minimalist book, especially in the context of the New Jedi Order,
But
where
it's weird because at points it's not, where they talk about how like you've only got 1,000,000 systems, we've got like 100,000 million, which like
yeah,
yeah, okay, but then like
we've made 2 Star Destroyers.
you got 6 Star Destroyers. Like, good luck. It's like this fleet's not even as big as the one that took Coruscant. Like, no, it's like 8 ships. Of course, it's not. Like, what do you
Well,
mean? Like,
when they're talking about the actual defense of Borosk, which so the way the Yuzhan Vong do this, they kind of lightning strike into Bastion, the Imperial capital, and they kill basically all the defenses. Pellaeon is in Chimera trying to hold things off with another Star Destroyer when Luke and Mara show up, and the Vong have just ruined the capital, taken a bunch of the civilians on the planet as slaves, and the Empire retreats to Borosk, which is, or they decide whether they want to fight at Yaga Minor or Borosk. They go to Borosk, and uh, and there's like 4 different battle groups that are like the main parts of the defense, based around 4 different Star Destroyers, so named for the Star Destroyers. Chimera is completely out of the picture. But when they're talking about the battle, they do talk a lot about how there's like capital ship after capital ship going for the Yuzhan Vong Dovin basal carrier. And so like there's a lot that are implied to be there, whether that means like capital ship is in like a Corellian Corvette size thing that's dying, or if
yeah.
there's like the potential for interpreting it as like maybe there's another
Well,
Star Destroyer or
it
2
says
there.
explicitly how many Star Destroyers there are. I believe. I believe they say in total there are 8 Star Destroyers because
Yeah.
it says like there's the 3 flanks, and then I believe it says, and then the 2 held back made 8. I think it says that exactly, but I could be.
But there are still like other planetary defenses going on and all that. They're
Well,
not
they
just
should
pulling
also have a Super
everything to
Star
Borosk.
Destroyer because last time
Yeah.
when Leia went to the Remnant, they had a Super Star Destroyer.
Yeah. And that one's just busy. I don't know if that one gets accounted for in the upcoming battles, because there are a
Oh,
bunch of like named SSDs that are in there. Especially once you get to like James Lucino stuff, there's like the
James
3
Lucino
battle
goes
groups.
sicko mode.
Yeah. He basically gives a full roster of the Jedi Order at the end, so
Yeah,
he's a real one for that. But
yeah. We got a new Jedi in this one. I forget his name, or maybe that was the next one. I can't remember.
I think it's the next one.
Yeah.
I'm not sure who you're. Yeah.
No, it is this one. After they have the Senate meeting, or not the Senate meeting, or maybe that is
Oh,
the
at the
next.
start?
Yeah,
Okay. I don't remember his name, but yeah.
one who was hurt by the Vong. I can't remember his name. He's like all scarred.
But we did in the first section of the book, one of the other plots that goes throughout it is Nominor, in his shamed one capacity, is getting involved in the Jedi heresy with the message talking about how the Jedi are possibly going to be able to save the shamed ones. And so there's an attack by the warriors on Coruscant that kind of wipes out his group, and so he's kind of going through trying to
That was
uh
extremely confusing when I started reading the second book.
yeah.
Like, man,
Oh,
he became shamed one Jesus. Although there
I
still is
guess
a
the start of
gap.
it is in this.
Yeah.
Him
Yeah.
meeting up with the Shamed ones is in this one as well. I thought that was
There's
in Destiny's Way for some reason, but
no, it's this one because Destiny's Way ends with him like piecing out after evac.
yeah. So he ends up meeting up with the Shamed ones and learns about the heresy, which is basically all the events of Yavin with Anakin Solo and Vurapung, I think is the
Yeah,
warrior's name.
Vong, yeah.
Who
From way back in the day.
Yeah.
That's
So there
back when
was
Anakin first got his Vong sense.
Yeah, with his
Which
lambent crystal.
haven't really seen much lately, although I do think it comes back at the end.
Well, Jason is trying to train with Tahiri to see if it'll work, but Tahiri needs to figure out if she's Tahiri or Rena first, her Vong alter ego from being shaped, where they tried to put a Neuralink in her head and it did not go well. Just like the
She
real one.
turned into a Tesla monkey.
But yeah, so the shamed ones think that with the shamed warrior having risen up and with the shapers having been exposed about basically their whole religion being false, now the shamed ones will be able to rise up. And so there's a growing fear among the Yuzhan Vong rulers that they're going to be dealing with a revolt at the same time that they're dealing with the rest of the galaxy.
Were you surprised by how pious Nomenor was? Yeah, because I was a little bit.
Yeah, because by the end he's talking about how like it's hard for him to get involved in a lot of this because he still thinks technology is heretical.
Which I never got that sense from him at all. I always thought he would use technology basically at will. And
yeah, he was using the lightsaber and just killed other people to make sure they didn't know he was using the lightsaber in one of the earlier books.
Yeah, and I never really got I mean, I never thought that he fully believed in the gods either. Although this one he definitely seems like he does.
Yeah, like I think it'd make more sense if it was phrased a bit more like of a like the cultural background that makes him have that reaction to technology rather than that he is like so strongly still believing in the religion that he's like perfectly fine with undermining and clearly doesn't believe. Like maybe he thinks that the gods are real and that like Shimra and that part of it is false, but that really isn't super in line with how he's been presented before.
Yeah, and it's kind of not even necessary. Like, what they could have is like, what they need to do is kind of establish him in like a fish out of water situation. Really, it's enough for him to be so ingrained with like he would find the shame ones off-putting for the other reasons, like without the whole religious background of it. Just because like that hierarchy has been driven into his brain for so long.
Yeah, like he's clearly fine with using them for all of this, and I think that's enough. Like having him still think he's above them and want to use them for his own survival. I do think it was a bit much making him like have that much of a care about what the implications would be for his religious standing, especially when he calls himself Yusha, the prophet. It's like, okay, is that sacrilegious for you? I don't know.
Super sacrilegious for sure. He's basically calling himself Jesus.
Yeah. Well, it's just like, is the prophet gonna be okay with this?
Gonna have to be. He's an interesting character. I wouldn't have minded if Nomenor survived the NJO. He doesn't, but
yeah, I think he would have been one of the more interesting ones to still be dealing with in the future. It's just that's one of the things that I don't like about the ending when like there's basically poochie them off and send them back to their home planet.
Literally, yeah.
The Nash choke took them all home.
He's almost like he's kind of like the NJO's version of like Vistara from Fate of the Jedi.
In that he
well,
gets his coom spores from a Skywalker.
Yeah, exactly. No, and that he's like, I don't know, like he's not fully. He's evil, things kind of turn around a bit at the end, but he's like Vistara, she kind of fully turns heel in the next book, whatever it's called, after Fate of the Jedi. Yeah.
In Crucible?
Crucible, yeah. She's like bad again.
I think Nominor is like probably the worst of them morally. Where like at least when you're dealing with someone's convictions, you can know how to approach them and understand where they're coming from. But with Nominor, and I think this is why some of the adherence for some of the elements of the religions feels a bit weird with him, where like so far he's been such a like personal operator, maybe shaped by his time as like an advance agent in
Yeah.
the Dark Horse comics, where he originally wasn't of Yuzhan Vong,
He's just
but
a dude with cool armor.
a dude who with an unsee-through cloak, so
Yeah.
no one knew what he would look like. But I don't know. I don't think he was ever redeemable, but I feel like there might have been a world where
I mean, you
he
can say the
becomes a
same about
pragmatic one.
Vistara, where like she has every chance in the world to be good, and she's just awful.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, like he kind of does. I don't fully remember, but he kind of does the right thing towards the end, like for the wrong reasons, maybe.
Oh, I could see him almost more as like a more self-interested version of Pellaeon, but still like kind
Mm.
of a Pellaeon character where like 20 years from now the uh the books are talking about him as like he wasn't that into the empire.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
Pellaeon was never like quite so self-interested. That is the one thing that kind of is a through line for his character positively, uh where like it's not quite the selfishness that gets him, it's whether or not he agrees to the fundamentally flawed system that he's
Yeah.
protecting, something that isn't really the case with Nominor.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
But at least for now, he's kind of playing along with the shamed ones. He almost kills someone trying to sleep with him. Not very
That was
good of him.
hilarious.
And then he feels a little bit bad about that. There's those little sparks of
Yeah.
emotion in him. But now we kind of end the book without really getting too much of a conclusion for him. He takes on his new name. Most of the plot with him in after he's joined up with the group and learned the heresy is that the heresy or the heretics get all kind of wiped out. He thinks it's because he's with them and the warriors are after him. He learns it might have just been a coincidence, and he takes his new name, ready to throw himself into leadership within the heresy movement. So
Because he doesn't think he'll be able to just survive. Like he doesn't think like he thinks he's always going to be targeted by somebody. So he's realizes his only ways. At first, he thinks, okay, I'll get back in the good graces of Shimra by exposing just how serious this heresy is. Which I don't know. I don't think that would work based on what we've seen of Shimra in the past. He's more of a like, what can you? It's like, okay, thanks, but you're still gonna die.
Yeah. Unless he has stopped it. If he comes with bad news of like, hey, this is a problem you need to do something about.
Great, now I'm extra
Shimmer's not, yeah.
But at the end of the book, it's kind of changing where he's like, dog, I might topple all of the Yuzhan. Like, that's like if I yelled at Charlie and he like slowly turned like Marmar and Zach and like everyone against me, a rash.
Yeah. Is that more or less believable though? I don't know. I do like how basically immediately Coruscant for the Yuzhan Vong ends up with the exact same dynamics as Coruscant for everyone who has previously ruled the world. There's like the Undercity with all the oppressed people.
Yeah. I thought it was a fun exploration where they talk about how like, oh, they think they're in like this sub basement of like this deep dark level, and then the ground breaks down and they're just in an attic of another massive building. Like goes on forever. I thought that was a fun. It's like a nice comparison to like I forget which book it is where Jaina and Jason as kids go down to like Coruscant and they reach the ground. They like take one elevator and they're like down at the ground level.
Yeah. Oh, we're gonna go see where Zach lives, and it's like
2,000. It's like 6 whole staircases in there. They're like, oh man, this is deep.
Living with his weird friend who brings their lunches to the Jedi Temple.
I wonder why Zach turned a little evil. They did call me sewer rat.
Did Zek try to eat a table centerpiece? Is that from?
Yeah.
Classic Zek.
Yeah. I can't
The
remember. Is that
potpourri.
from? Yeah. Oh yeah.
That was Young Jedi Knights. I think that's why they go to the Undercity, because he disappears. They don't hear
Yeah,
from
I
him for
couldn't
a
remember if that
while.
was Young Jedi Knights or like the beginning of Legacy of the Force, but yeah. And they all laugh at him like they lived this most privileged fucking life of all time. It's like, oh, your family's at times not been worth over 1 billion credits. Okay.
Poor Zek. Just wanted a big spoonful of potpourri, and now he's mocked for generations.
Like evil. That's evil capitalist shit right there.
Why do you make kids go to a diplomatic function like that in the first place?
Yeah, and like, don't make them go hungry.
But we haven't really talked about what's going on with Han and Leia yet. Han is very opposed to going to see the Avethans because they had
They
kept
did
him.
torture the shit out of him.
They tortured the shit out of him, and Leia's like, "But what if they helped us fight the Yuzhan Vong? Wouldn't that be cool?"
Which is very likely based on what we know of them.
Yeah, they'd be fighting the Yuzhan Vong regardless if the Vong were around. They're definitely not going to make an alliance. Like, if the Empire's not going to come out of their little hidey hole to help you, the fucking Yuvethans are absolutely not.
Yeah, like honestly, the Avathans are almost worse than the Yuzhan Vong. Because like at least the Yuzhan Vong envision like they've got some vision of a galaxy. Yeah, it's like twisted by their religion, but like the Avathans just want to kill things.
Yeah.
Like I think if the galaxy submitted to like the Yuzhan Vong and like Vong forming, I think they'd let them live there. But like the Avathans want
They'd just be turned into slaves.
Yeah, maybe.
The Avethans would just kill them.
Yeah.
No, actually the Imperials on in the Black Fleet got turned into slaves as well.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, the Black Fleet. Well, actually, the Black Fleet's been destroyed, but it seems like they had built up like hundreds of thrust ships. It says.
Yeah, all of the old enemies were getting really back on their grind before the Yuzhan Vong came around, apparently. So
a thrust ship is not like I can't remember. Like a thrust ship is not like a starfighter. It's a big ship.
Yeah, they're like 500 meters. Like they're dreadnought sized ish, a little bit smaller, but they're not. And
I think it says hundreds of them, if I remember correctly. Hundreds of them destroyed.
Yeah,
like
and
dog.
They quite possibly had like bigger variants as well.
Oh, they definitely did because there's like so like they were fully back. Crazy how the New Republic like just let that happen too.
Yeah, well, don't monitor them at all.
Basically, the neighbors. So this whole book is really about. Well, if I remember correctly, the next two will touch on this. We already got it a bit, but the Yuzhan Vong War. We see this actually in book 1 with Ramamul and Osarian. Like people are using conflict as an excuse to like fight, like to get the gloves out and work out these old issues.
Yeah.
So the neighbors, the Fion, aren't they, or the Fia of the next Kakuna cluster? They've been kind of under the threat of the Avathans for a long time. So they basically work with the Yuzhan Vong, well, to get them wiped out, which people are kind of chill with at the end of the day. Like,
yeah,
people are like really chill with it.
Okay, it happens.
Han's like, not to be racist, but
it was us or them.
Yeah. So, but we do. Jaina does go and check out the. Is it which planet?
She goes to.
It is in Zoth,
their capital. Yeah.
Yeah, and there's like one left, and he just suicide bombs himself.
Yeah. They detect exactly one dude down on the planet who like clicks them in, thinking this is his moment to shine. Just blows up one of the Chiss pilots with them.
He's like,
gotcha.
It's kind of funny. They're like, because they've been thoroughly defeated, like pretty much genocided. Maybe taken as slaves, but we don't really hear about them as far as I'm aware after this. He's like, the people who destroyed us, they're gonna conquer the galaxy. That's good enough, and he tries to blow everybody up.
Well, we also hear about the Fians have kind of sided with the Avethan, not sided with them, but like basically sided with them, knowing that the Yuzhan Vong were going to go deal with the Yavithans, all at the cost of the Yavithan or the Yuzhan Vong coming back with a giant slave ship to take them all. But uh the fuck so Han and Leia realize they need to escape. I remember where I was going with this. I got it. And they're helped by someone who turns out to be a member of the growing Rin network, tied to Han's earlier partner when after Chewbacca died, Droma the Rin. And the Rins are a lot more connected. Like, they have a lot more information on what's going on around the galaxy. And the guy just basically gives them a rundown of all the alien species that are now extinct because of the last few
this
weeks.
Dude knows everything.
Like what's his Hathrier species is dead now. The Ferrero Rocher.
I was wondering if that is okay.
I think so.
I knew I recognized that name from somewhere, but that makes sense.
I can't remember if it was his species or if it was just. I think it was his species because it's like the tall, pretty people.
Yeah,
and they had like settled on different planets. Yeah, Ferrero. They'd settled on like Belderone, and one other place, and they were just like all wiped out now after Leia had tried to save them earlier. So that's happening everywhere.
We almost went to Belsavis, which is getting my children. That's Children of the Jedi, right? With the isn't that where the what's it called? The Jedi what's the name of that ship?
Or Palpatine? Nostril of Tarkin?
Oh, is that where I was thinking? Okay, I was thinking Belsavis was where the Chunthor was, but
no, that was Dathomir.
Chunthor
was the Jedi Academy ship that crashed on Dathomir.
But isn't there something with Belsavis? Oh, is that where the Children of the Jedi are? Are they on Belsavis?
That's where Jyn Altus was.
Okay,
like where Callista and the Altesian Jedi were for a while.
And that's where they were hiding, right?
Yeah, and then she got
in the well or whatever.
Yeah. And then they all left or got killed.
Right.
And then there was like some connection with Chunthor was like 200 years before. I think. But yeah, but that they were on Belsavis before she got downloaded.
Also mentioned in Andor.
Yeah, Belsavis.
Just some of the I remember this especially where sending all the prisoners to different labor camps, and there's apparently one on Belsavis, which I thought was fun.
Belsavis is not a fun place to be. It seems like my least favorite planet to live on, potentially.
Really? I kind of like
it's cold.
It is, but like the city is in like a hot spring. Like the city is like I just looked it up and it's exactly how I remembered it. Where like the plus it's kind of like ice Geonosis.
It's reverse Utapau.
Or Utapau, yeah, is better.
But there's just so much ice around, and then it sounds like a dystopia.
Bro, you live in Ottawa.
Yeah. If I'm gonna live in a fucking fantasy planet, you think I'm gonna live in fucking space Ottawa?
Space Ottawa.
Probably don't fund the goddamn train there either.
Probably not. Yeah. Oh, one thing I was surprised is they mention that the where is it? My notes here. Oh, that the Sirook were stronger than the Avathans, which I was surprised by. They're talking about like which faction would have bounced back first. Yeah, I guess I see that.
Yeah, I mean the Siruvi, they only show up in Intrusive Bakura, but like they get a lot more expansion in like source books and stuff, where it's the longest war the New Republic's involved in, other than the Empire, where they're pushing for a few years. They get mentioned in the X-Wing books as like getting assigned to like rear Siruvi mop-up duty. The Empire of the Hand gets involved. There's fighting with the Chiss. It's like they're kind of a big deal. Like beyond the main powers of the galaxy, they were probably like B tier.
Yeah,
probably on the same level as the Empire is now when they're
were kind of out there
for their height. Yeah.
And the whole thing is they have the entictments, so they can. It's kind of like a rolling ball where once they get one planet, it's kind of like the Yuzhan Vong taking slaves, really.
Yeah. But they were, I guess, wondering whether that would work with Yuzhan Vong, whether like the life force that's being worked with is related to the Force.
Yeah.
And Leia's kind of wondering if that like got melded together, what would happen.
Yeah.
But they would never agree to that.
One thing, did you notice this book kind of forgets that Leia's a Jedi?
Yeah. But has she started her train? No, she hasn't really started training yet. But like, it's always been such an off and on thing with Leia, where like some books will treat her like she's like a full Jedi Knight, other books will treat her like she's never touched a lightsaber in her life.
It up more later, but if you go back to like book 1 of the new Jedi Order, it seems like she's been training.
Yeah,
but I guess even I'm forgetting
confidently losing or using her lightsaber in a lot of other situations than here.
Yeah, she'll definitely more later on, but yeah. But did you have any other notes you wanted for this one?
I did like the meeting at the end where Pellaeon tells the Imperials how it's going to go. I thought that was a fun scene, but there was a prior meeting.
Oh, I was going to say we got one of the most famous Legends quotes in this book.
Yep. But after that, there's the scene where Pellaeon's like yelling empty at Fennec because of like something, and I just got I just kept picturing like Michael Scott yelling "I declare bankruptcy" with it.
There's another moment like that too, where I forget what he's saying. He's like talking to the Yuzhan Vong commander, and he's just like wrong. I forget what he said.
Yeah, that's basically. Oh yeah. That's actually what I'm talking about, not Fennec. Sorry.
Oh yeah.
That's where the empty comes from, where Vorik.
Empty. I
thought.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, because it's my original thought wasn't The Office. It was Even Stevens. If you remember, like old Daily Show stuff with Steve Carell and Stephen Colbert.
Yeah, no, I like that.
That's what it was.
He's just like completely the like Yuzhan Vong commander's like floundering. He's like throwing his best insult. He's like empty.
Skibbity.
Just like calling him a fucking loser.
But yeah, and I think that is the same conversation as the quote you're talking about.
Yeah, where he says, "Remember, the Empire always strikes back."
And then he looked at the camera and winked.
He's got Galaxy's best Empire in a mug.
Okay, I just accidentally I looked down and I had landed on the page where Fennec's talking about who he's hunting, and it's Eloms.
Which are like a fully sentient species.
Often not treated that way. Like this one has a speech bubble, which means he's intelligent. But this fucking Wikipedia page reads like it's
written by that guy.
Yeah. Eloms were an extremely peaceful and unsophisticated species who lived deep beneath the surface of their home world.
So I imagine it's like an Utapau situation with the Elomin. Is that true?
Yeah, basically. Because so the Elomins' original perception on their neighbors, as noted in Ryan R's knock on Dick Astor's journals, they were huge, hairy, tusked, and putrid-smelling foul beasts, damned of chaos.
Well, fair enough, honestly.
Wow. Just letting.
I definitely thought they were talking about Elomin, so I care a little less now.
Oh, because they look less human?
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, they stink.
They're just nice little guys.
Not my problem.
I thought you people were demons of chaos. I realize now that Order sent you to protect us.
Okay, that's kind of sick.
Although they were highly ambitious and intelligent, Eloms were often manipulated into becoming involved with illegal activities due to their underestimation of the capacity for wrongdoing exhibited by other species. Wow, they're just the nicest dudes, and fucking Flennick's making a coat out of them. At least with Enric Pride, who's got his like Ewok coat. Like the Ewoks, I don't agree with using them as coats, but at least they would probably eat you if given the chance. There's a fair fight going on there.
Yeah, like they would literally bash your brain through your nose hole, like without thinking twice. Yeah, they almost cooked Luke and Han for like no reason.
First reaction.
Yeah.
You're friends with our god, but you're also kind of delicious looking. So what are we gonna do?
Thank God they're like into human women, because Leia was right there. Actually, really, she didn't do anything to stop him though. So
no, she was.
They're like the anti-Simps. They're like the anti-Simps.
I think that's most of my stuff. Is there anything else you want to pull in?
Nope. I got to go to my chair and get the go to my car and get the folding chair I bought Charlie from Walmart today.
All right. You want to give a quick rating?
It's a C for me.
This is a C for you. I think that's a 3. Is that how this works?
Yeah.
Yes. C is 3. I think I liked it more than you. I think I'm probably going to give it do I give it a B? I'm kind of on the cusp between B and C. I'm going to put it at a, let's see. I gave Destiny's Way a B. I gave Temptation of the Force a C. I'll give it. I'm going with C as well. Maybe we'll revisit all the NJO books by the end. That might be a good idea. What are we thinking for next week? Do you think you can finish the other 2
Probably
parts?
Not. I might be going camping. So
right. So 2 weeks from now is the 22nd.
I should be able to do that because I'm not going to Toronto.
All right,
with the guys.
So next week, will you be here? Are we
I'm not positive yet.
Okay, so maybe we won't be doing an episode next week. We'll come back with a book guaranteed the next week. Guaranteed. Because
let me just make sure I'm not in PEI.
Okay.
I mean, we could always change the day too. So I go to PEI on the 22nd. Oh, that is next Thursday. Let's just see. We'll discuss it internally.
Okay. So
I do leave for PEI on that Thursday.
Yeah, if we end up doing it on a different day, that's fine. Well, our next episode will be continuing on with Force Heretic.
It's the end of summer, so if we miss a couple weeks, I think it's understandable.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. Bye, everyone. Thanks for listening. Bye.